أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما مزيدا. قال الله عز وجل بعد أن أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Dear brothers and sisters, Alhamdulillah, we've been seeing amidst all the problems in our ummah, amidst the genocide in Gaza, amidst the occupation of East Turkestan, amidst the occupation of Kashmir and many other places our ummah is suffering, we've seen a glimmer of hope, alhamdulillah, in the last few weeks. We've seen and we've thanked Allah for the victory that He has given our ummah in the form of removing the dictator Bashar al-Assad, removing this regime that has tortured its own people for decades, removing this regime that has been infamous for its torture, for its oppression, for its dhulm. And alhamdulillah, many masajid all over the world today and last Friday and every day in between, they've been showing thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for removing a tyrant. And we see on our TV screens, we see on our social media feed, freed prisoners that have been locked up for things like praying Fajr in Jama'ah. People that have been imprisoned for decades for things like not standing up to greet a tyrant, for things like, obviously, things like opposition, even peaceful opposition, or attending a protest, far from that, but simple things like growing one's beard, like going to the masjid too frequently, where every masjid would have a spy, and people would be scared. People would be scared to show their Islam in public. Alhamdulillah, we're seeing our brothers and sisters being freed. Sisters, hundreds of thousands of people, our brothers and sisters, being freed. One of the detainees, I don't know what to call him. He wasn't a criminal or anything. He had no crime that he committed. But he was a man from near Al-Quds, near Jerusalem, who came to study in Damascus University when he was 25 years old. He was arrested. And now he was released. He was released by the brothers and sisters on the ground there. He is 67 years old. SubhanAllah. More than 40 years he was languishing in one of the most notorious prisons in the world. The prisons that CIA torturers used to threaten, people they used to extraordinarily render, people they used to kidnap. They used to threaten people, if you don't cooperate with us, we'll send you to our Syrian dungeons. He was in one of these dungeons. And he gave an interview recently. He gave an interview. This uncle, his name is Walid Barakat. And he, like many dozens and dozens, hundreds, thousands of other prisoners, he is a teacher for us now. And what's very interesting is he said, As-sijnu madrasa. The prison is a school. It teaches you many things. Things about life, things about the oppressor, things about your own self. And he said, I believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept me living. Imagine, he's been there for more than 40 years. He came as a young man. He left as an old man, with wisdom, with age, with decades of experience. He's seen people come in, some people killed, some people tortured. He's seen people come in, some people disappeared. He said, I believe Allah kept me alive in this prison and kept me alive until its liberation, so I could teach you one lesson. I could tell the world, Allah does not abandon His slaves. The thing that kept him going was what? That hope that he had in Allah, that truth, that Allah does not tolerate dhulm. Allah does not tolerate injustice. He may let the oppressor get away for some time, but always, you don't even have to understand anything from Revelation. You just need to see history, see human beings, you see nations rise and fall, and study this. Everyone knows the arc of justice is long. It may be long, but it always bends towards justice. The zalim, the oppressor, cannot get away for long. Maybe he has some resources, he has some international backing, he has any zalim, any Fir'aun. But when he gets more and more powerful and he thinks himself as more and more self-sufficient and free of need, that's when Allah's adab comes, baghta, suddenly, surprisingly to him. We may think, why is this allowed to happen? Why are there so many oppressors? Why do they have so many resources? But Allah is giving them more and more rope to suddenly hang themselves with. When they go from their strength, their apparent strength, all the way to their humiliation, that is the biggest humiliation for them. And this man, this Shaykh, like many others, is teaching us what? That don't be impatient. The victory of Allah is near. The victory of Allah is always near. Sometimes it requires sacrifice. Sometimes it requires pain, suffering. But it is always close to the believers. You may die without seeing the victory. You may die without seeing any respite. But always recognize the victory of Allah is close. It's close. It's just beyond the horizon. And when you approach any challenge in life with that in mind, it changes the way you look at things. Just think about this. Imagine any problem the Ummah is going through. You will approach it, you will think about it differently in two different scenarios. Number one, scenario one, you don't know what the future holds. You don't know what's going to happen. You have an uncertainty. You might become depressed. You might become anxious. You might do something silly. You might do something haram because you're in desperation. Scenario A. But scenario B is what? You know that the victory is promised and it's eventually going to come. You know that any injustice is not going to last. You know that any oppressor, eventually he or she is going to fall. We've seen this in country after country after country, and the remaining oppressors are shaking their boots. But we've seen it's only a matter of time. Now, the person who recognizes that truth, that reality, that victory is eventually going to come, that oppression is eventually going to end, that person, he has a completely different approach to that. His approach is what? There's an inevitable victory coming. Am I going to be part of it or not? Am I going to sit on the sidelines, or am I going to get a piece of the pie? Am I going to be one of those who is a cog in a greater machine, or am I going to just chase temporary dunyawi goals and objectives? The victory is always near. Hope in Allah's victory should always be in the front of our minds. And there's many lessons that we can draw from this special blessed land. By the way, Syria is an artificial country. This is the land of Sham, Bilad of Sham, what we today call Syria, Palestine, Jordan. All of these areas, they're just separated by what? Just artificial lines drawn on a map by two diplomats 100 years ago, in the Sykes-Picot Agreement. The Bilad of Sham is a blessed land. It includes Al-Quds. Bilad of Sham is a blessed land. It includes Damascus. It includes Jerusalem. It includes all of these areas. The Prophet ﷺ made dua for this land. The Prophet ﷺ foretold that Isa alayhi salam is going to come back to earth on this land. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا فَسَدَ أَهْلُ الشَّامِ فَلَا خَيْرَ فِيكُمْ. If the people of Sham are spoiled, are corrupted, then there's no hope for anyone. I.e., the people of Sham are almost like the last hope of the Ummah, the last bastion. This land of Sham, Bilad of Sham, is very special to us and dear in our hearts. Not these artificial lines, these constructs that we say, that we talk about today. It's not haram, obviously, to categorize areas and places, but we should recognize that these are artificial constructs. The real land, Bilad of Sham, is a blessed land, is a land full of barakah, is a land of prophets, is a land of Islam. And this is a land that is going to be steadfast when it comes to striving and struggling in the path of Allah towards justice and against oppression, and again, eventually against Ad-Dajjal. But we know, we recognize, we have this lens on that any problem that's happening, we know victory from Allah is close, and we should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be part of that victory. We have certain things to prepare. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He commands us in the Quran that وَأَعِدُّوا لَهُمْ مَسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ, and prepare for them, prepare for your enemies, prepare for your battles, prepare for your opponents. Prepare in any type of strength. And we've seen some lessons when it comes to preparation for strength. It's not just military strength, especially today. The issue isn't who has the biggest guns or who has the most military power. The preparation is of many types. And in the next khutbah, inshallah, I want us to reflect on what are the different types of preparations we can make to strengthen the ummah, to strengthen the presence of justice on a global stage, and to be part of the best ummah created for mankind, for the benefit of mankind, who enjoy the good, forbid the evil, and believe in Allah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. There are a few important lessons for us that our Mashayikh, our knowledgeable people all over the world have been reminding us of in the light of the last few weeks in particular. And one of them is the importance of establishing justice wherever it is. One of the things that prevented the victory of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala coming was injustice, or the lack of justice on the ground. Many people have said this, all the different groups, and naturally when this happens, when there's a civil war in the country, people start acting unjustly. If somebody has been oppressed, it's natural for that person to react and oppress others. But this is why the deen of Islam is the only deen that can produce genuinely just systems. Why? Because we are the only people, we are the only deen that has a sense of justice anchored to something outside of our interest. A sense of justice and injustice tethered to something outside of our desires, outside of our national interests, outside of our tribal loyalties. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns us, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, kunu qawwamina lillahi shuhada'a bil qist. O you who have believed, stand firmly as witnesses to Allah when it comes to qist, when it comes to justice. وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ عَلَىٰ أَن لَا تَعْدِلُوا. And do not let the hatred of a people cause you to swerve from justice. اعدلوا, be just. هو أقرب للتقوى. That is closer to piety, that is closer to God consciousness. واتقوا الله, and fear Allah. Fear Allah and be conscious of Allah. إِنَّ اللَّهَ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. Allah is indeed aware and well acquainted with whatever you do. We have this belief in Allah, that Allah is watching us, Allah is going to hold us accountable, deeply ingrained into our DNA. And the opposite is also true. كَلَّا إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَيَطْغَى أَن رَآهُ اسْتَغْنَى. Indeed, the human being begins to transgress as soon as he feels himself as self-sufficient, free of need. And I'm a superpower, and there's no one above me. I can oppress, I can take whatever I want, I can oppress any person I want. This is the criterion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not tolerate injustice. As many ulama have said, many thinkers, many, I call them sociologists, people who study the rise and fall of nations, Allah will permit a disbelieving nation to exist and to thrive if it has justice. And Allah will destroy an unjust nation, even if it is a believing nation. Allah will give prosperity to a just people, a just community, people who establish justice and don't tolerate injustice, even if they are disbelievers, because the punishment for their disbelief is in the hereafter. In the dunya, Allah will give them success, material success. And Allah will not tolerate, Allah will not allow an unjust nation where people's rights are not fulfilled or not protected. Allah will not allow that to exist, to flourish, even if they have Iman, even if individually the people have Iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are believers. But rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to have Iman in Him, to save ourselves from the punishment in the hereafter, and also establish justice in this earth, to give us prosperity in this life and the next. And this is what is extremely important. It's when justice was delivered in those different regions, that's what allowed people to come together and unite and be supportive of the different groups coming together and uniting and becoming now the de facto leaders of this country. And that's my second point. Part of our preparation is what? To unite, to unify. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that our brothers and sisters, all the various different factions, they didn't have what it took 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and now they have what it took. They became unified, they come together collectively. It's not about one group over the other, it's about all of the people, as many people as you can, put aside your differences and work towards a common goal. This is what the ummah is in need of. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns us as well. وَلَا تَنَازَعُوا فَتَفْشَلُوا وَتَذْهَبَ رِيحُكُمْ. Do not dispute, do not become divided. Do not become divided. Of course you're going to have any time you get two people in a room, you're going to have different opinions. But do not let that cause you to divide amongst each other, and your strength will depart. This is a key mode, a key aim, target for us, a key vision for us to prepare our ummah. To prepare our ummah. And unfortunately, people overlook this. We skip towards hatred for Allah, and we skip over love for the sake of Allah. The two go hand in hand. The fact that some people might expect you to give a proof, or expect you to argue why you should unify with your brother and sister in Islam, it shows that we've completely lost the wood from the trees. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in countless places in the Quran, refers to the Muslim people as what? The believers as what? One party. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Oh believers. 17 times minimally in a day we say what? Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Guide who? Guide me to the straight path? No. Guide us to the straight path. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. The path of those whom you have guided. Those whom you have guided. Those whom you have blessed. Every time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, almost every time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to the believers, He refers to us as a plural. We are one body. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam explicitly said this, that my body, my ummah is like one body. If one part of it is suffering, then the whole of the body is kept awake, the whole of the body suffers. Do we feel this way? Do we feel like we are one body? It's natural to look at the differences between you and someone else, to try and magnify those things. It's actually part of our ego, it's part of our nafs, it's part of our narcissism. That we want, the nafs desires tamyiz, the nafs desires to be unique, to be distinguished. One practical tip to make us think as one, to make us think in a unified way is what? Zoom out of things. The more you zoom in to anything, you'll find more and more differences, you'll find more and more things. If you zoom into a droplet of water in under a microscope, you'll find a whole universe of different organisms and bacteria and stuff floating around. But you need to zoom out sometimes so you can see the bigger picture. When you get any two Muslims from two different schools of thought, two different sects, two different madhabs, whatever, two different organizations, two different masjids, if you zoom into the differences, this guy believes that, this guy believes that, this guy prays like this guy prays like that, looking into their differences in a minor scale, you'll start to feel disunited. That there are different people, they are a different group to us, they have a different, aqidah, they are a different fiqh to us, they are a different madhab to us, they are different organizational objectives to us, whatever it is. But sometimes we need to zoom out so we can think like leaders should think. A leader will think like what? They have their own identities, but these are two cogs of one greater machine. Sometimes we need to zoom out. When somebody sees you praying next to someone with a different school of thought, your hands are here, his hands are here, your hands are here, you do this, he doesn't do this, you say Ameen out loud, he says Ameen quietly, we might pick up on these distinctions between us. When somebody from outside, he comes and looks, he'll see the people doing exactly the same thing. They're worshipping Allah alone, they're bowing to their Creator, they have one Lord, they have one Prophet, final Prophet, they have one book, they have one Sharia, generally speaking, they have one Aqidah. Sometimes when we zoom into the details, we overlook what's more important that unites us. And this is a very important technique and tool for us to unify and think at a macro level. So unity, the first lesson was what? Justice, the importance of justice, establishing justice in yourself, in your business, in your family, in your masjid, in your community, in your country. Wherever you have any authority, you must establish justice. That's the bare minimum. The second is, and this is a consequence of that, becoming unified, establishing unity towards a a common goal. And the third thing, when it comes to preparing the ummah, is think. The preparation is not just military, like I said. We don't need. We have all of the powers. We have all of the so many countries, so many citizens, so many armies all over the world. That's not our problem. The problem is justice, unity, and preparing ourselves in those areas where we're lacking. Media, for example. Prepare your media discourse. Prepare your political discourse. Prepare your economics of Muslims. Prepare the next generation. We have lots of, alhamdulillah, doctors, lawyers, engineers, accountants. Prepare the next generation. Who's going to be the media people? Who's going to be the journalists? Who's going to be the teachers? Who's going to be the politicians? Who's going to be the thinkers who are going to come up with these policies that the ummah needs going forward? Who's going to be the thinkers, the policy makers, the politicians? These are the areas we need to prepare our next generation in as well. While we have, alhamdulillah, the business people, we have lots of money in our ummah, we have huge amounts of resources. But we need to nurture those who can manage these resources properly, who can see the bigger picture, who can take leadership, take strategic decisions for our ummah, for an akhirah-centric goal. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, this is a time to celebrate, this is a time to show thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as well as a time to refocus our efforts where it matters, establishing justice, working hard against injustice, unifying the ummah, and preparing all of the other skills that we need to bring victory to all humanity, not just for the Muslims, all humanity. When Islam is given more role in public, when Muslims are given more freedom, when our lands are liberated, this is beneficial for all of humanity. Because justice, like I said, brings material, worldly prosperity to everyone. It's a win-win. Only those who benefit from injustice have anything to lose. Justice, establishing Islam everywhere, in our personal lives, in our masajid, in our communities, in our families, in our countries. This leads to benefit and justice and fruits for all people, alhamdulillah, in this life and the next. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our shortcomings. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give the best outcome for our brothers and sisters in Sham, the best outcome for our brothers and sisters in Syria, Palestine, Jordan, Lebanon, and all of the areas where anyone says La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين وصلى اللهم وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وأقيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر